to you from underneath a peach blossom. It's time for an episode of Be Awesome. Find positivity throughout your life and work, just like our mascot rooster, Steve the Jerk.
Hello, Be Awesome listeners. This is episode 13 of the Be Awesome podcast. And no, you weren't hearing things. And yes, that is intro theme music. Had to do it. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad it was given to me. Pretty interesting story there. Childhood friend and neighbor who I haven't seen a lot of over the last 25 years had put a post on Facebook on my Be Awesome page a month or so ago with a picture on his radio of my podcast, and he's a local singer for, he does a lot of singing at bars and playing the guitar. Goes by Nicky Mental, and so he had that post on Facebook, and I just said, man, it looks like people are listening to my podcast. I probably should get some intro music after all. So he threw that together for me, and I just think it's great. It's fitting. It's catchy. So hope you guys like it too. Another piece to Nicky Mental, which he shared with me last week. I got to see him in person, and he thanked me and told me that my sharing of the keto diet and the things that I was going through and some of the challenges that I faced, he was facing a lot of similar challenges, and in turn, he actually started going on his keto diet as well, and he's down 30 pounds in 8 weeks, 2-belt loophole tighter, and he's excited to be getting a new wardrobe of clothing. So congratulations, Nicky Mental. Thank you for the intro music. Now I just need to figure out how to consistently get it in the front of our podcast. So I'm doing this little part here before I get to the actual podcast 13. As my listeners know, and for those of you that are listening for the first time, podcast 12 was with Aron Ralston the night before we attempted to climb to the top of Quandary Peak in Breckenridge, Colorado, which was 14,200 feet, I think around a mile of vertical, 6 point some odd miles round trip, and I made it 13,000 some odd feet, 13.2 or 13, somewhere around 13,200 feet, and about 6 miles round trip. And I did this recording post climb, and I really thought I would, when I announced that we were going to do a post, and Ralston thought it was a good idea. I thought it'd be easy. Thought I'd be done with the climb, come down, everything would be cool. And it wasn't. It was highly charged emotion-wise. You feel like you failed. You feel like you succeeded. You have so many different feelings were going on, and for a period I was by myself. At 13,200 feet, I encouraged Aron. We brought friend Allison up, and it was her 14er attempt. They both made it. I wanted them to continue, so I stayed at 13,200 feet for about an hour before I started to descend down by myself. And it was just a lot of reflection, a lot of thinking, some worry. And so when I got to the bottom, there I was, really kind of nervous and worried. It was really difficult for me to do that podcast, and I don't listen to my podcast. I have a panel, as I shared. I have a panel of now 5 people that listen prior to, that kind of tell me, hey, you should release it, you shouldn't. I don't edit, I don't do anything to my podcast. They're raw, but this one was really raw, and I didn't want people to have their first experience as a sobbing grown man in a car in a parking lot, talking about one step over the other or whatever I was saying. Quite honestly, I don't remember it all. I still feel the emotion here today, almost 4 weeks later. So hope you take a liking to it. I think there's some pieces to it that make sense and that can make a difference in your day. And the learning lessons on this whole experience, is really a lot in line with a lot of what the messaging has been in a lot of these podcasts, which is, you get what you can handle, and the willingness of your mind is very strong. Your ability of your mind is very strong, and your willingness is sometimes not. As David Cooks was sharing with me earlier this week. If you listen to his podcast, if you haven't, it's great. He is a phenomenal person, and his book is a great read, and he's really helping a lot of folks in his speaking. But our mind can be our best friend or our worst enemy, and this really it took a lot of work for me to just get one step in front of the other. So really hope you guys like this episode. Episode 13 is now out. It'll be put into order, but it'll be fresh off the tracks here sometime this week for you. And really appreciate all of the reviews, ratings, phone calls, text messages, emails, shares, and following on social media. That tells me how I'm doing. I, again, don't listen to my podcasts. I don't need to be my own harshest critic, and I also don't need to be my own biggest fan. I count on you guys to do that. So I really appreciate you guys for giving me your feedback and input and ideas and considerations for future podcasts. Keep them coming, because that's what this is all about. It's about you. So here comes the podcast 13 from the parking lot of Breckenridge at the bottom of Quandary Peak with my good friend and inspiration, Aron Ralston. As always, if you want to do awesome, you got to be awesome. Have a great day. Hello, Be Awesome listeners. This is the lucky episode number 13. Aron Ralston and I just hiked the 13th highest peak. What was the name of it? Quandary Peak.
Yeah,
right? Quandary Peak, 14,200 feet. Unfortunately, I only made it to 13,200 feet, but pretty happy overall. We walked in snow between 3 inches, and my fat ass was in like 4 feet of snow. These guys were skating over it, but my added weight had me sinking all the time. But this was the most incredible physical experience that I've ever had, and it's not just because I was not in the best shape of my life. I think even if I was in better shape, I'd still struggle with it.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
The challenge of it. The reality of a lot of this being mental was the challenge that you and I talked about back in June when we came up with this idea, because we talk about how I do things and how a lot of times I don't prepare. My mind tends to get through stuff, and it was a lot. It was a lot. I walked one foot after the other. I never looked up, and I couldn't believe how far we walked when I finally got to that point where I couldn't go any further. And, just 1 foot at a time, which was, that's the way we should do things. We shouldn't look at mountains and all these things and be like, wow, that's huge. If you just look at it 1 foot at a time, you'd be amazed at what you can accomplish.
How do you feel about that? About what you accomplished? I see.
I made it a lot further than I thought I would. I would have liked to have made it the whole way. I got to that point where my head was just completely jacked, and all I kept thinking about was Amy and the kids. And then when I just asked you to, leave me to sit for a bit, and I had the most, majestic, beautiful thing. I didn't know how I was going to make it. Because I was like, I'm only 50% there. I got to turn around and go back down, even though it's a lot less difficult. It's a lot, and but a lot. I learned a lot. Like that, this lesson will stick with me for the rest of my life, which is take things in stride, do things one at a time, be patient. Mm-hmm. So many times you were telling me, I don't even remember what the word is, to slow down. Back off or whatever.
I just was yelling at you to
slow
down.
Yeah.
You'd rev up and then you'd get out of breath.
Yeah,
and
I just would
stop and recover. And
I would just feel like I'm
slow and steady,
trying to keep up, and patience and actual thought. Like, take a step, take a breath, take a step, take a breath, and then when you started, when I started getting that last hour that you were amused at, which I understand completely. Because I don't even know half the stuff I was saying other than when I was yelling at that guy thinking it was you.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was like a wild
I love what he said though back to you.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
get unstuck.
Yeah.
So I was.
What the F am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
I'm stuck.
So I was at the point of deliriousness, probably about 12,000 feet. I was all set at that point. I had 5 points of giving up.
You were at 13,000 feet. This was
Yeah. But I had 5 points of giving up, not including last night at the hotel. And the first four, I was frustrated with myself. I couldn't get a rhythm. And so Aron and Allison kept going, which was a great thing because it kind of kept me motivated and moving. But they're probably more accustomed to the weather and have done this a bunch of times and everything else. And I got kind of delirious, and I felt by myself for like 10 or 15 minutes. And this guy comes down with a blue jacket, and I thought it was Aron, and I'm like, what the F am I supposed to do here? I'm stuck. And he just didn't even like miss a beat. He's like, get unstuck, and just kept walking. And I thought it was Aron. I said a couple other things before I realized that it wasn't him.
Because how many hands did he have?
Yeah, he actually had two. He had two arms. He had two gloves on, so I assume that he had two hands, and kind of felt stupid. And but this life experience is something that I'll take with me forever. That I can't thank you enough for seeing the need for me to do something like this. I think more people should do things like this. Not necessarily. I'm not saying go climb a mountain and not be in peak shape or anything, but I think people need to get out of their comfort zone to really appreciate things. Calling home and just saying I love you and realizing how important that is huge. So I don't know.
It's the biggest lesson of all.
Oh yeah. Appreciate what you have and make sure people know it, and make sure you just get away from the bullshit. Just stay focused and remind yourself, and don't need to go climb a mountain to find it. Just realize every day that you have a blessing. We're all ordinary people, and we just have an extraordinary opportunity at one thing called life. And I'm blessed to have great people in my life to help remind me of that. We're sitting in a parking lot in my rental car, in case anybody's curious.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive to the airport and catch a red-eye flight home, and you're going to head off to Aspen. But I feel like I've done all the talking. You're just sitting there.
That was my role for today, was to be there to support you, to move up the mountain, to dig as deep as you possibly could, and you gave it everything you had to give. I'm proud of you.
Well, I appreciate it. And you were just awesome. It was. I wanted you to lead because I wanted to slow down or stop or take a break, and no, you just keep going. And then when you saw that I was probably motoring too hard, you'd get in front of me and slow me down, and you'd get my pace going. And
yeah, I kept telling you to downshift. I think
yeah, downshift. That's what it was. I had a Jake brake on a big rig. But I think I want to leave with the fact that if you don't have people in your life that are like Aron to me, and the people that are been in the Be Awesome podcast, try to find them. Do your best, because it's so much better. At the end of the day, you feel better, you live better, you love better, and don't get stuck. Just get unstuck, like Aron's stunt double that had two arms.
The best advice of the day didn't even come.
The best advice of life.
Guy you thought looked like me.
Get unstuck. But yeah, embrace the suck and get unstuck. I mean, you gotta do it. It's and challenge yourself to it, and don't settle for status quo. Go out and figure out what's possible. I'm not done. I'm doing this. I'm gonna climb another one.
Yeah, we got 9 months till redemption time.
Yeah, and there's going to be redemption. This whole thing was supposed to be done in it was August, I think, originally, and the weather was perfect.
Oh, even yeah.
And the weather was perfect up until like a week ago, and then all of a sudden it's just all it's done is snowed and snowed and snowed. I had to learn how to put gaiters on, and that's not easy. So you need them, but try to have a buddy that's not going to laugh at you while you look like you're rolling around like a sausage trying to put them on, because that's basically what I had this morning. It was like
Aaron all of a sudden got busy when I was trying to strap in, and it was mostly just to laugh at me because I looked like a complete jagaloon. So
I helped a little bit.
yeah, you did help. I
also laughed. I laughed. That is one thing we're all good for.
You clasped me on. You taught me. You gave me showed me the ropes. I wouldn't have been able to do that without those gaiters. I didn't even realize how important those things are. If you do hike, we saw a lot of people hiking by themselves, and they weren't even remotely close to prepared. For anybody that was, sitting here thinking, well, that was stupid. You're just losing weight and you're not in shape and all that stuff. I put my life in Aaron's hands today, and he was lights out. Walkie-talkies, emergency beacons, everything else. I didn't have to ask him. He had it on lock, and it was good because he had the walkie-talkies. We could go back and forth.
Yeah.
I made the descent mostly by myself, which was cool. But get after it and get unstuck. That's my advice that I can give today. I don't know if you have any advice you got.
Yeah. I like the way you said it. I'm happy to leave it there. I know that you went into a place I could see, even for all of the other adversities that you've experienced in your life, that this was unique to you, and that you absolutely dug as deep as you could. And so we'll come back and we'll see if you can dig a little deeper.
Dig a little deeper in the spring. We're going to make it work. So.
Yeah.
Everybody, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to load this thing up and push it out on my red-eye flight with my free Wi-Fi on JetBlue because I love those guys. But in the meantime, you can find me at Josh at BeAwesome, BeAusm.com. Be sure to put ratings and reviews on iTunes. I got 8 shirts still left to give away on that. And, just keep kicking ass. Get unstuck and have fun. So... have a great weekend, everybody. I know I sure am when I get home.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
You're one of a kind, man.
I appreciate it, brother.